When you were younger, you heard it a lot, or even older. There will be people that you've been around will miss who you are, or they will miss you because you're different. They're going to look at you and say, I know there was something about her, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. It could be a him. But later on in life, they will realize what it was. You never said anything. You left it alone. You remained silent. Because explaining who you really was, it wouldn't have mattered. Because it's hard for people to understand who you truly are. And even sometimes for yourself, it's hard to explain or even understand where you've been or your mindset. And when you've gone down some of the roads that wasn't quite clear to you, it took a while for you to catch on to who you truly were. But there were some people who knew who you were, but they never said anything. But for the ones that wasn't quite sure, you would always hear there's something about you. But when you serve God, you really put your best foot forward, and He gives us a lot to live for and a lot to think about. And when you're with the wrong person at that time, you realize that it's kind of like mixing oil and water together, and we know that those two things doesn't mix. And generally, it's going to separate. We already know that. You can shake it up, you can move it around, you can stir it as much as you want. It won't never connect. And if it do, it's for a second. And then once it settles, it separates automatically. That is because you don't have anything in common. You're two different people. It's like one person is too dark and the other one is light. Maybe really light. And each person should have a balance as far as where it comes a little bit dark, a little bit light. But some people are just extremely to the dark side. And if you're on the light side, you're always going to clash. You're always going to have problems. You're always going to go through changes because you don't have anything in common. Because it's like, what does darkness have in common with light? Nothing, because it's of too extreme. That is why when we enter into a building or a room, that is the first thing we reach for, because we can bump our toe, hit our, arm or hand, or hit your knees on a chair. Anything can happen once you enter into a room and it's dark. It's uncomfortable. Who wants to be in a dark room? And who would want to be around a dark person who's very into themselves, or who doesn't have God nowhere in their life? We know that that's a difficult type of person to deal with. But when we know that darkness doesn't have anything in common with light, we already know how it's going to end. It's not going to end good at all, because it's of two extremes. So that is just something that I wanted to talk about. And we know that when we do realize what we have, we look at it and we really realize that sometimes when we're in that type of situation too, people think that, oh, she or he is not smart. They're very dumb, or they're quiet, or, they don't know what's going on around them. But those type of people are very aware. They're very smart. They're very educated. They just don't speak on certain things. They leave it alone because they know that you won't be able to comprehend it most of the time. And sometimes people look at you as though you think that you're better than others. And it's not that. It is just that some of the experiences have been different. And when you speak to some people that just don't understand who you are, sometimes they judge you. And you don't want to deal with that all the time. So you just leave well enough alone. So that is why when you are around people, or that is why you realize that your past is your past, and when you've dealt with people in your past, you just generally realize what it was and what it was for.